Hello students, welcome to Divine Public School. Today I am going to teach you chapter 1 of class 12 from the textbook Flamingo Board CBSC. Chapter 1, the last lesson. This chapter is written by Alfonso Daude. Before you begin the lesson, before you start reading the story, you must know the biographical sketch of the author. Alfonso Daudet was born in 1840 and died in 1897. Was a French novelist and short story writer. He was born in Nimes, which is in France. He was a son of a silk manufacturer. Alfonso wrote his first poem and novel at the age of 14 years. He started his career as a school teacher and later on began to contribute articles and stories to magazines. A lot of educational institutions in France have been named after him. Now, these were the basic idea about Alfonso Daude. Before I explain the chapter, I would like to tell you the background of the story, the last lesson. The last lesson is set in the days of Franco-Prussian War led by Bismarck. Prussia defeated France and the French districts of Alsace and Lorraine passed into Prussian hands. Now, the era of the story is a war between Franco and Prussian War. This war took place from 1870 to 1871, almost 1 year. The Prussian soldiers were led by Bismarck. His full name, Otto von Bismarck. O-T-T-O, Otto von, V-O-N, von Bismarck, B-I-S-M-A-R-C-K, Bismarck. He was the dictator of Germany. Prussia then consisted of what now are the nations of Germany, Poland, and parts of Austria. In this war, Prussia defeated France, and the two districts of France, that is Alsace and Lorraine, came under the control of Prussia. The two protagonists of the story, M. Hamel and Franz, are from Alsace. M. Hamel is a French teacher and Franz is one of his students. The story revolves around how the war plays a pivotal role in their lives. Now, the two protagonists of the story, that means the two main characters of the story, M. Hamel and Franz, they both belong to the schools of Alsace. Franz is one of the students of French school and M. Hamel is a French teacher, is giving his last lesson on French. This story is all about what is happening on the last day of the school. Basically, this story of last lesson is of the teacher M. Hamel in French language. Now, explanation of the chapter. Franz, who is also the narrator of the story, is a young school-going boy. Franz started for school very late that morning. He was afraid of being scolded because M. Hamel was to question them on participles and he did not know the first word about them. He thought of running away and spending the day outdoors. Franz started for school very late that morning and was in dread. He was in fear of being scolded by his French teacher because M. Hamel, the French teacher, had told the class that he would be taking a test on the topic participles. Dear students, you know participle is the part of a grammar, and this little boy, Franz, was expected to be prepared with participles. But Franz frankly admits that he was totally ignorant about the topic. So, as he has started for school very late from his home, so on the way, that means he started late for the school. From home to school, on the way, he thought of not going to school. Instead, spending the day out of doors. That means he is having a different opinion of not going to school. But how is going to spend the day outdoors? He's going to waste his time in searching birds' eggs or going sliding on the Sar. Now, in the second paragraph, Franz is describing the scene out today. It was a warm, bright day. The sun was shining bright. The birds were chirping at the edge of the woods. Woods means area of lands that is covered with trees. So the birds were sitting at the edge of the branch of a tree. The victorious country, Prussian soldiers, army were drilling, that means march past, in the open field back of sawmill. Sawmill here means a place or a small factory where large wooden logs are cut into plank. It was all more tempting than the rule for participles. Franz was very much attracted by the things outdoor, where he could gladly spend life out of doors. On one hand, there were many things by which he was attracted. On the other hand, he has to reach to school. Therefore, he recollected all his strength to fight against his inner voice of not going to school, and he started walking fast to school. Finally, he chose to attend the school. There was a crowd in front of the bulletin board near the town hall. Vactor the blacksmith asked Franz not to go so fast. He assured the boy that he would get to his school in plenty of time. On the way, there was a bulletin board, as you can see in the picture, near the town hall. Now, the question arises, what is town hall? Town hall is an important place, as we do have in our Gorakhpur, where important meetings are held. At the town hall, on the bulletin board, the administrator pasted the important information for the public so that they can come to know what is going to happen or what has been happened. When Franz passed by it, he noticed a huge crowd in front of the bulletin board. And the people, that crowd, were trying to read the notice pasted on it. He did not stop to look at it because he was in a hurry to reach school. He wondered in his mind what could be the matter now. Because for the French pupil, all the bad news had come from the bulletin board. For example, the news of lost battles, the draft, and the orders of the commanding officer. Now, today, this bulletin board had become a center of attention. Among that crowd, Vactor, who is a blacksmith by profession, along with his apprentice here means the helping people, those people who support the blacksmith in the profession, was reading the information pasted on it. Seeing the Franz, he commented, "Hey boy, not to go so fast to school. You would get plenty of time to reach to school." Now here, Vactor very well knows that Franz is such sort of a boy who is never interested in studies. But Franz thought that the blacksmith was making a fun of him as he was already late for school. So he ran to the school and reached there breathless. Now, in the second paragraph, usually there was a great bustle when the school began, but that day everything was as quiet as Sunday morning. Now, here, Franz is describing the unusual scene of the school. Usually, when the school began, there was a great bustle. The opening and closing of the desk, lessons repeated in unison. Unison means together at same time, very loud, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. All these voices could be heard out in the street. But that day, everything was as quiet as Sunday morning, the day when the school remained closed. Now, through the window, Franz saw his classmates already in their places and M. Hamel walking up and down with his iron ruler under his arm. Franz opened the door and went in. He blushed and was frightened. M. Hamel very kindly asked him to go to his place. As he reached late for the school, he didn't dare to enter the class straight away. So he went to the window and peeped inside the class. Through the window, Franz saw his classmates already on their desk and M. Hamel walking up and down with his iron ruler under his arm. Here, the quality of M. Hamel is described as a teacher. M. Hamel was a strict teacher and had a good command over the subject and language. He maintained discipline in the class. So, Franz had no option left but to open the door and go in before everybody. He was confused and could not figure out what was happening that day. He was frightened that the teacher might scold him for being late, but to his surprise, M. Hamel spoke kindly to him that day and welcomed him by a kind and polite way. This nature of M. Hamel was quite contrary. Today, he became soft and gentle towards his students. Now, in the second paragraph, Franz noticed that their teacher had put on his beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt, and the little black silk cap, all embroidered. The village people were sitting quietly on the unusually empty back benches. Everybody looked sad, and Hauser had brought an old primer. After a few minutes, Franz noticed that his teacher, M. Hamel, had put on his fine Sunday clothes, his beautiful green coat, frilled shirt, and the little black silk cap, all embroidered, which he wore only on. That means M. Hamel wore this dress only on inspection and prize days. It was his favorite clothes. And in the class, the back benches, which were usually empty, were occupied by the village people. Villagers were looking sad. Old Hauser and several others, like the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several others, were present in the schoolroom. Old Hauser had brought an old primer. Primer is a book of nursery class in which A, B, C, D alphabets are written. Old Hauser held it open on his knees with his great spectacles, was trying to read what is written in that primer. MML said that it was the last lesson he would give them. Henceforth, only German was to be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. The new master would come the next day. This was their last lesson in French. He wanted them to be very attentive. Now, in this paragraph, M. Hamel, the teacher, told the children in a solemn and gentle tone that it was his last French lesson he would give them. because the order from the Berlin is the capital of Germany. So the order has come from the Berlin, which led to the announcement that French language would not be taught anymore, and instead German would be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. The next day, a new German teacher would come and teach in German language. That means the medium of instruction will be in German. As that was their last French lesson, M. Hamel wanted the students to be very attentive. Why he wants very all the students to be very attentive? Because he wants to transmit all his knowledge in one go. For example, if I say one arende nale mooli enji ari edi ettu umbadu pattu, is there any student who can tell me what I have told just now? Obviously, no one is going to answer because none of the child is knowing about the Tamil language. Dear students, I have counted the counting from 1 to 10 in Tamil language. So, if you are unable to understand my Tamil language, as you are not aware of this language, here you become the linguistic minority. Now, in this paragraph, Franz felt sorry that he had not learnt his lessons properly. The idea that M. Hamel was going away made the narrator forget all about his ruler and how cranky he was. Now, Franz understood why M. Hamel had put on his fine Sunday clothes and why the old men of the village were sitting there. Now, in this paragraph, Franz regretted for not being serious towards studies. The announcement made by M. Hamel left a great impact on Franz. He was shocked to hear that M. Hamel was leaving and that it was his last lesson. He realized that he would not be able to read and speak his own mother tongue. M. Hamel going away made the narrator forget all his strictness and how cranky he was. Now, Franz understood why M. Hamel had put on his Sunday clothes. It was in the honor of his last lesson in French. And villagers sitting there had come to pay respect to M. Hamel for his 40 years of faithful service. That means for the past 40 years, he has been teaching in the school. They were showing their respect for the country, France, that was there no more, as it has come under the control of Germany. M. Hamel asked Franz to recite, but he stood there silent. The teacher did not scold him. He confessed that his parents and he, that means the teacher, were at fault. Then he talked of the French language. M. Hamel called the name of Franz and he was asked to recite. Now, despite his best efforts, he got mixed up on the first words, as he had admitted that he was totally ignorant about the participles' rules. He stood there holding on to his desk and he did not dare to look up. M. Hamel told him in a polite tone that he would not scold him. He confessed that the people of Alsace only pretend to be Frenchmen, but they could neither speak nor write in their own language. M. Hamel, in this paragraph, blames the parents of the France for not sending him to school. They preferred to put him to work on a farm or at the mill so as to have a little more money. M. Hamel even held himself responsible as he often sent his students to water his flowers instead of learning their lessons. He also used to give them a holiday whenever he wanted to fishing. After a few minutes, he talked of French language. He talked at length about the French language. He considered French to be the most beautiful language in the world. It was the clearest and most logical language too. He urged his students to guard it among themselves and reminded them never to forget it. Then they had lesson in grammar and writing. The pigeons cooed very low on the roof. Franz thought if they would make them, even the pigeons, sing in German. After that, he started teaching grammar and writing. On that day, M. Hamel had brought new copies for the student. When the pigeons cooed on the roof, Franz sarcastically remarked on it because he hates the idea of German language being imposed on them. The writer wants to say that language comes naturally to a being and it cannot be forced upon anyone. All the while, M. Hamel was sitting motionless in his chair and gazing at one thing or the other. His sister was packing their trunks in the room above as they had to leave the country next day. M. Hamel sat motionless in his chair, gazing at one thing or the other as if he wanted to fix in his mind how everything looked in that little schoolroom. His sister was packing their trunks in the room as they have to leave it all after 40 years and they have to go. After writing, they had a lesson in history, and then the babies chanted their ba, bi, bai, bo, boo. Even old Hauser was crying. All at once, the church clock struck 12, and then the midday prayers. After writing, M. Hamel taught them a lesson in history. The small kids chanted their nursery rhymes ba, bi, bai, bo, boo. Old Hauser, who was sitting at the back of the room holding his primer in both hands, was crying because he was unable to read the words of the book. His voice trembled with emotions. When he was trying to spell the letters with the babies, all these were the unforgettable experience for the narrator. All at once, the church clock struck 12, which was the indication of school is over, and then the prayer song began. At the same moment, the trumpets of the Prussian, returning from drill, sounded under the windows. At the same moment, hearing the trumpets of Prussian soldiers returning from the march past sounded under the window. Patriotic feelings overpowered M. Hamel. M. Hamel stood up. He wanted to speak, but something choked him. Now, M. Hamel stood up in his chair. He looked very pale and tall. He wanted to say some parting words to the student, but something choked him as he was overpowered by his emotions. Then he took a piece of chalk and wrote on the blackboard as large as he could, Vive la France. After this, he stopped and leaned his head against the wall. Without a word, he made a gesture with his hand to indicate that the school was dismissed and they might go. As he was unable to speak a single word, he took a piece of chalk and wrote on the blackboard as large as he could, Vive la France. That means long live France, showing his patriotic feeling. And he stopped writing and leaned his head against the wall and made a gesture with his hand without facing the students and without speaking anything, signaled the class to leave as the class was over. Now, here the students, I will tell you the themes discussed in the story. The first one is linguistic chauvinism. Linguistic chauvinism is a very negative, narrow minded approach. It is an idea or you believe that your language is superior to other people's language. So that is the attitude of the Prussians. Now they believe that their Germany language is superior to all other languages. So German will be taught in all schools. Second one is the importance of one's identity. You need to respect all other languages. You need to have broad mind approach to all languages. Our mother tongue is our identity. Third one is the cruelty of war. We know that what will happen when war occurs. And there is a lot of destruction and damage, and apart from it, the people will be suppressed and their feeling will never be expressed freely in the country. And the last point, insensitive nature of victorious. The people who are in power, they are so insensitive towards the fellow beings. So all these themes are there in the story. Now here I have given you some short answer type questions. There are 10 questions which you have to answer using your own words, and you have to show for the correction. Thank you students for watching this video. Thank you.